Oh, hello there. I'm Egil. I'm a warrior, storyteller, runecaster, mobile. And don't forget, press the subscription bell on the corner and leave us a comment. So, what am I going to be talking about? I'll be talking about women in the Viking Age. It's only a thumbnail sketch, don't get me wrong, but it'll give you an overview. I mean, when you think of Vikings, you think of big hairy men leaping out along ships, waving swords and axes, killing monks. Well, they had families as well. So what about these women? Are they invisible? Well, not really. Vinland Saga, the one expedition is actually led by a woman. Alright, they don't trust her and she betrays them, but that's neither here nor there. We also have the image of the Valkyrie, the shield maidens that pick the dead from the battlefield. Well, obviously you've got goddesses, too many to mention, but Freya and Frigg are just two to remember. But they have specific roles. If you look beneath that, what? Women are there not just to produce children. Did they have any rights? Well, yes, they did. I wouldn't say it's a better time, it's different. Different in what way? Okay. First of all, we'll start with courtship. The woman could pick a boyfriend. Father would have to have a look. Now, you were not allowed to write poetry, give tokens, or recite poetry to the woman, because there could be hidden runes in there which you could cast a spell. So, okay, you've done that. She gets married, and those of you who are married, perhaps the analogy of marriage is it's like a Christmas present. When you get it, it's a nice ribbon on it, pretty paper, looks fantastic. You undo it, and what do you got? A pair of underpants and a pair of socks. Doesn't exactly fetch the purple haze, but most people stick with it, some people throw it away. So what happens then if the husband of the wife is more armpit rather than Brad Pitt? There are two ways she can go. First of all, she can go in the marketplace, get the husband to roll his sleeves up, show his chest hair, and she will go, I divorce thee, I divorce thee, I divorce thee. Jobs are good. House, all the treasures are divided between them. If there's any children, the women look after them and the men pay them. And they're made to pay it. Another thing is, how this happened I don't know. If she swaps clothes with her husband, she goes dressed as a man and he goes dressed as a woman. That'll upset the priest, no two ways about it. So, on the marriage, the husband gives what's called a morgengabe, a morning gift, a dowry. And they drink mead for a whole month because it's supposed to make for both couples fertile. Hence, honeymoon, which we have today. Whether it worked or not, I am not qualified to say, but it happened. So, Our Lady is married. She has to live with her mother-in-law, who has authority over her, which doesn't seem a good idea for the wife, maybe the husband. And housewife. She had a chatelaine, a chain, with three things on it: the keys to the house, the keys to the food, and the keys to the money chest. Her rule and her word ruled the whole household. So the king himself could come riding up and she'd say, he's not coming in. He wouldn't be allowed in. She was responsible for the history of the family. She would teach the children right from wrong, and the children, the girls, she would teach skills such as Njal bending, which is a Viking form of crochet work. But she would also tell them how to deal with men. And I think you ladies know what I'm talking about. She would also teach them what herbs to heal, which herbs were good to eat, which herbs killed, because that could be as useful as anyway. And they would do the weaving, but to weave you had to have thread, and everybody had to spin the wool. And the single women did more spinning and were known as spinsters. See, it all fits together, you know. It's all clever. Now, what if the husband died? It's quite possible in an age of violence and of sickness. People didn't have very long lives. So you have your widow. She would be a very viable asset to any man, and they would be laying massive gifts out because they knew she could run a farm and a profit, and that made her worthwhile in their eyes. Also, here's news for any redheads out there: they were looked on as lucky because the god Thor had red hair, and anybody with red hair was looked upon as favourably. How times change. So now it comes the time of voting. You go to the all thing, the cases are presented, and on the Wapentake or weapon take, you raised your weapon. Is he guilty? If you raised it, that means yes. Is he innocent? If you did that again, you were innocent. Only women were not allowed to do that. They weren't allowed to vote or to present a case. You had to do it via a man. Also business. Well, women could conduct business, no problem, so long as it was no more than 3/4 of an ounce of silver, which is actually, it's not a lot, but it's just a token gesture, I guess. But one of the greatest things that women were known as, they were called peace weavers. You got rich men with too much time, too much alcohol and too much testosterone. They fall out. You've seen it today, two blokes falling out, the wife goes, "Now come on, calm down, enough, behave yourself." And that's what women did. They were called peace weavers, and they could stop very serious business by doing such things as that. They also were able to rein their men in, or in some cases push them forward. Yeah? So again, it's a subtle sort of authority. I won't say it's better than today, it was different. That's all you can say. Now, there is a book by Professor Jess of Nottingham University called Women in Anglo-Saxon Society. Well worth the read. And this is one of the sad things, you know, we talk about history, his story. We're only getting half the picture, really, when you think about it. You can't have one without the other. So we hear about the men, the warriors, the kings, the priests, blah de blah de blah. What about the woman? In many cases, it's the women that push the men on. Classic case, Queen Athelflaed. A lot of people haven't heard of her. For those of you who haven't, she was Alfred's daughter, and very much like King Alfred. She ruled around here. She was Queen of the Mercians, although she chose to call herself Lady of the Mercians. And she was in favour of uniting all the Saxon kingdoms into one kingdom. And as it turned out, her grandnephew actually was King Athelstan, the first king of the English, or Regia Anglorum. Before I give you a plug there, Regia, which means King of England. So, Athelflaed booted the Vikings out of Derby, where we are today. No mean feat. She scared the people of Leicester that much, they surrendered without a fight. And she took the 5 boroughs: Nottingham, Leicester, Lincoln, Stamford and Derby. Each of these were like points along an imaginary line. And unlike a wall, you didn't have to man it all along, you just had them as rallying points. So we have Queen Athelflaed. But she's almost expunged from history. We talk about the Anglo-Saxon chronicles, but there is supposedly Athelflaed's chronicle. There's very little about her, but bear in mind the Anglo-Saxon chronicles were more concerned with Wessex than Mercia. But for the everyday woman, what sort of tasks would she have? Well, she'd have to get people up out of bed. She'd have to make sure people have got some breakfast and make sure that the ale is brewed. And that's not just sheer egotism. The water, as anybody will tell you, you don't go drinking water out of a stream because of the bugs and things in it. Also, milk, again, carries all kinds of waterborne diseases. So you make cheese from the milk. You make ale with the water. We're not talking massively strong stuff, about 2%, but you drink about a gallon of that a day. Yes, there was wine, you had cider, which was a popular thing, mead of course, which was for special occasions. But when you brewed ale, the first was strong ale for adults, for parties, then you had middling ale, which was for adults every day, and then you had small beer, which was for children. That doesn't mean to say they didn't knock out alcohol. When you think about it, there's not much going for people other than having a good drinking session. I mean, today it's very cold, so I mean, we can go in, we've got nice warm houses, etc. They didn't necessarily have that luxury. But again, when the men went away, a Viking, as it was called, the women looked after the children and to defend them. What weapons would they have? Well, every farm had an axe. Yeah, so you've got this axe. Very effective weapon, close quarters. But then we have the langseax. They are wound knife. This is a deadly weapon. Yes, it shows that you are a freeman, but it also shows don't mess with me. A woman with this who's defending her children, you're dead. So she draws it out. If you do it right-handed, it doesn't work left-handed. One man coming at you, she draws it out across his eyes, he's blinded. She turns it, next man, straight down the side of his neck, he's out of it. Which positions you nicely, aim for his naughty bits, in and up. You'll soon find out if he's got any guts or not. Brutal, very brutal. But we lived then in brutal times. Don't get away with the fact that the Vikings were totally brutal and the Saxons were little goody-goodies. Far from it. There's good and bad in all races. Did women fight? That's an interesting question. I'm glad you asked it. Well, the Valkyrie image came from somewhere. I believe personally, this is just my belief, that women did fight. Now, they wear the long skirts, they pull them up, stick between the legs, stick it in the belt. Looks like they've got baggy trousers. I can't show you at the moment, but I have a tattoo of a Valkyrie on my arm. And, like I say, women fight just as fiercely as men. In fact, they're more tactical. And, yeah, I'd like to think they do fight. Can't see why they wouldn't. They fight today. So, to summarise, society as it was geared differently from what we have today. You couldn't vote, but you could choose your husband, and you could divorce your husband with honour. And what were the duties of a housewife? It was to rule the house, to keep the peace, teach about medicines, cooking food, how to spin and weave, and to exert pressure sometimes for the man to get up and do something, or to wind his neck in. So, and also, did they fight? Well, there's no definitive answer. I'm sure women did fight. They're more than capable. So, no doubt there will be some proof positive on that. But as I say, this is merely a thumbnail sketch. And if you want to get into it more, there's Professor Jeshi's book from Nottingham University. Well worth the read. And if you have any comments, please leave them with us. I'm not saying we know all the answers, but we'll try and find out for you. So until we meet again, take care. Bye now.